Hey there everybody, welcome to another episode of Bert's Bike, and today we are going to talk about my brand new Yamaha Tenere 700. Let's get into it. So why the Yamaha T7? Well, it's been a while since I've done any off-road riding or any adventure motorcycling, and all my motorcycles were pretty much street bikes. And if you've been following the channel, I had an old Triumph T100 that I was sort of turning into a scrambler, and I was pretty much done with the build except putting on some knobbier tires on there. And I just got to thinking, I want something a little bit more purpose-built for adventuring, for doing some off-road things here and there. And eventually I wanted to get into more adventure style riding. I'm predominantly a street rider, but I really wanted something that was a little bit more dual purpose with a lean to more off-road ability. And so I think the Yamaha T7 is going to fit the bill just perfectly. I've only put a few miles on this T7 since I've had it, but last year I was able to test drive a 2023 model. This one's a 2024 model. So I have an initial first impressions of what the bike feels like and everything. If you want to check that out, I'll put a link below. But this video is more of what I think after owning the bike, bringing it home, and riding around with it a few days and just putting a few miles on it, what my real kind of owner impressions are of this motorcycle. Well, first off, the bike is tall. I like how tall the bike is. As you can see, I'm a pretty tall person. I'm 6'1", and I think this bike fits me perfectly. Now, I can't really flat foot this bike, but I'm on the balls of my feet. However, I don't usually stop and put 2 feet down. I usually do the lean to one side thing, and that is perfect for me. I think it's really built for someone who's a tall rider. Honestly, one of my initial thoughts on my first ride video was it just feels like a bigger version of my CRF. It definitely feels like just like a bigger dirt bike. So I do commute back and forth to work on a regular basis, and I think this bike is actually perfect for doing that. I live in Nashville, Tennessee, and traffic here is terrible. So if you are going into the city, chances are you're going to be stuck in some kind of traffic. You know, with my R18 and cruiser bikes and stuff like that, you are sitting kind of really low. And so a lot of times when you're behind an SUV or a big truck, they can't even see you through their rearview mirror, and you're just sitting kind of underneath the line of sight of a lot of drivers. What I like about the T7, or just adventure bikes in general, or taller motorcycles, is it puts you up high and you can really see what's happening around you. So yes, you sit up in a more commanding position to where you can see over traffic, and it puts you in the line of sight of most drivers. So other things I love about the bike, well, I really love the new dashboard. When I first rode it, I had it on, I think it was adventure mode or something mode like that, where it was the display was kind of like this kind of racing line that came up. And fiddling with the screen, there's some other modes on there or other displays you can choose. I actually love the tacho display. I'm not really one for digital displays or TFTs, but if I'm going to have one, this is a really good one to have, I think. It's a little slow. It takes a little bit to, when you flip the throttle. It does move. It's not as responsive as I would like it to be. I did a review on the KTM 390, and that has a really responsive screen. If you're interested in that first ride, link below. I actually really like this seat. This is a pretty comfortable seat compared to my CRF 300L, and I know a lot of people complain about the stock Yamaha seat. I'm not sure if they did anything different for it on the 24 models, but this is pretty comfortable, and I could probably ride on this seat all day long. All right, the next thing I love about the bike, I do like the fact that it came with handguards. These are kind of nice just for everyday riding, but the minute you drop this, those are toast. I actually really love the sound of this exhaust. I think it's a perfect sound level for someone who wants to hear the bike, but not really drive their neighbors crazy. I also really love how this engine feels. This CP2 engine is kind of a legend in its own way. I mean, I've never owned a Yamaha before, and I've only heard great things about this engine, and I can tell you just by putting a few miles on it, it is a very fun, engaging engine to ride, and I'm really enjoying it. Do I think this bike has enough power? I mean, it's not going to be a highway crusher, but it'll do the highway and it'll happily do it. So I think this is the best of all worlds with a lean towards the off-road. Another thing too is I don't mind this stinger section, or I guess the mudguard. A lot of people, you know, the first thing they do with a bike like this is a tail tidy. I think it looks pretty good as far as these things go. And I'm just gonna have to see what happens with my luggage situation and to see if I'll actually do a tail tidy or not. I think it looks better with a tail tidy, but I don't hate it. Let's put it that way. All right, so let's talk about the last thing that I love about this bike. The suspension feels really good. I know that this isn't, you know, kind of knock your socks off suspension as far as adventure bikes go, but compared to what I'm used to, more street bikes and cruisers, modern retro motorcycles, this is a real easy kind of go on suspension, especially for around town if you're using this as a commuter. I'm pretty sure it's fine for off-road or for most people, because most people will never really hit the limit of what this bike can do. Another thing I think is really cool about the bike is the headlight. You get the 2 running lights in the bottom, and you get the 4 bulbs, 2 of which are on with the low beams, and then you get the 2 bottom ones for the high beams. And I think that actually works really good. Another thing too is I really love the look of this motorcycle. There isn't really anything that looks as cool as this that's also an adventure bike. Usually they have really big beaks and just look kind of too Transformer-like. They just look a little too weird, but I think it's just a great looking bike. I think the T7 is a good balance between quirky and cool. Also, I think the bike has really great curb presence sitting next to other motorcycles. It sort of stands out from the pack. Another thing too is I'm really big on the color of a bike when I buy it, or the color of a vehicle. And if I'm going to put my hard-earned money down, I want to get the color I want. And it came down between the white and red model of this, or this kind of green gray, whatever you want to call it. I think is one of the most perfect colors for this bike, other than the white and red color. All right, so let's move on to some things that I don't like about this motorcycle. There really isn't anything to hate. But I guess I got to nitpick a little bit. So I'm not too crazy about this mod wheel here, or this scroll wheel. It works well enough. I have no problems with it. But the way that Yamaha wants you to kind of integrate with the system in there and scrolling through the menus and stuff, it's like a roll, press, and hold, and then press again or something. It's just a little clunky. That's just a small thing. The other thing that everybody talks about is the exhaust on this motorcycle. I love the way the exhaust sounds. I think it is a really great sounding exhaust. However, the problem with the exhaust is, you know, everybody says it does stick out a little far. I think it is kind of an oversight on this bike. Honestly, it is not the end of the world. There are lots of different mods and everything like that, but it would have been nice to just have that in there. Now, I do think the placement of the exhaust looks aesthetically pleasing and works with the bike. However, I think if you're going to use this bike anywhere near the way it was intended, you probably got to address that exhaust at some point in time. Although the mirrors are really good on this bike, they're too far back, so you're not really seeing them in front of your view. Or when you're street riding, you know, you want them a little bit out front. And if I'm going to have them kind of tucked back like this, I'd rather have like a bar end mirror or something like that if they're going to be that far back. But they do work very well when you do look down and glance at them. So the other thing I don't really like too much is this regular fuel cap. It comes off the bike. My CRF, which, you know, at the time when I bought it was like $5,000, brand spanking new, and it had an integrated cap that flipped back that was so convenient for Phillips. And the other thing that I hate about these detachable ones is if you're filling up off-road, if you're actually, you know, adventuring with this motorcycle and you're filling up off-road and you accidentally drop the cap in some sand or whatever, you're gonna have to really clean that off before you screw it back on to avoid getting, you know, sediment and stuff in your tank. So that's kind of something that just should have been done. And I think on the 25s they actually updated that. Now, the one glaring thing that I don't like about this motorcycle, it's not even that bad, is the windscreen. Now, being 6'1", the wind is hitting me right at my eye level with this. And it's not bad at all until you reach about 45, 50, 60 miles per hour. Still got new tires on this thing. So, all right, here we go. 40, 45, 50. and clean air. Anything below that, this works pretty well because you're getting a little bit of wind and it's not buffeting. But you know, right when you hit like 45, 50, this is kind of, it can get annoying pretty fast. It's okay for shorter rides, but if you're doing any long haul riding with this, it definitely will drive you crazy and you'll get headaches and stuff like that. So, and this is also one of the reasons why I did not buy this bike sooner, was because I was waiting to see if there was an actual fix for this kind of wind buffeting issue. I had a CB500X in the past, and that bike had the worst wind buffeting I've ever experienced on a motorcycle. You could tell that it was designed for a much shorter rider. So really, that's just the glaring thing that I don't like about this bike, is the windscreen. And you know, for buying a brand new bike and having to do something, that kind of sucks, but I kind of knew that going into it. Good thing that there are a lot of options out there, and I'm gonna try a few because I really want to be able to ride this bike on the highway with confidence and not have to avoid the highway. So my bike is a 2024, and another thing I love about this model is they got rid of the kind of big dopey headlights and taillights. I think that it looks way better, and these look really good, especially for a stock motorcycle. I think it looks awesome. And guys, it is 2025. All bikes should have LEDs on them. I don't know why in the US here, like, we always get the bikes that have the halogen bulbs, the big dopey ones. So, you know, it's just, it's time. It's time, motorcycle companies, put LEDs on your bikes. Also, another thing I gotta say is I really do like the tires on this bike. I haven't had it off-road, but as far as street tires go, I think they're really good. Still kind of bedding them in. Yeah, so I think they're actually pretty good tires on this motorcycle. So another thing I don't like about this bike is the back brake. It's not the worst I've ever had. You definitely notice it coming from other bikes. I think if this were your only motorcycle, you'd get used to it and it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But compared to other bikes, it is definitely kind of vague. Another couple things I really like about the bike aesthetically is I like the headlight design. I love actually the design of the windscreen, although I don't think it's as functional as good as it looks. I like the placement of the exhaust. However, that exhaust is not in the best place for like an off-road adventure bike. Again, I'm still breaking in the engine, but the gearbox feels really good. Gears are nice and positive feeling. You're really, you know, being able to shift with confidence on this bike. Okay, so what are my plans with this motorcycle? Well, I predominantly will be commuting with this motorcycle and doing some weekend fun, or putting this in my truck and, you know, taking it places. I want it to be kind of a Swiss Army knife motorcycle. I need to do something about the luggage situation first and foremost. I commute with this bike a lot, and so I have to bring things with me where I go. Now, I do love that this bike comes with tie-down points, but if you're doing anything but just taking a bag or two, you really do need some extended luggage. So we're gonna have to do something with the luggage, and I'm gonna have to do something with these mirrors. I'm gonna figure out a different solution. It's not a have to, but it's on my list. So the next thing is I'm toying with some kind of crash protection. I cannot decide if I wanna do crash bars or if I wanna do the strengthened fairing with the radiator guard. I'm kind of on the fence about that. Maybe you could leave a comment on that below. And keep in mind, I'm really concerned more about drop protection on the street, not off-road, because if it'll work on the street and falling on hard concrete, I'm good with that. So in my mind, I'm leaning towards the crash bars, and also doing videos for YouTube that gives me some places to mount cameras and stuff like that. So I'm leaning towards crash bars, but I don't want to sacrifice the profile of this bike. I don't want it to get sort of big and wide and heavy. So I still want it to be kind of a leaner machine. The stock skid plate for right now is actually a really good option because I'm not gonna be doing a whole lot of off-roading at the moment, so that can wait. Well guys, in my short time with the T7, I am absolutely loving this motorcycle. I can't get enough of it, and I can't wait to modify it and make it my own. Stay tuned on the channel, I'll take you through that entire process. So thanks so much for watching, everybody. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe, leave a comment below. It's Bert's Bike, and I'll catch you on the next one.